Welcome back to my follow-up video here on the Redmi Note 9S. So this is basically the Note 9 Pro. That version was released a couple of weeks before this one. So this follow-up video, I'm going to cover some things that I didn't go over in the review, and that is battery life. We'll also take a look at some of those commonly asked questions. I will try to answer those in this video and just go back over a few things like the camera as well, because I think it's actually really quite good, the camera that they've packed into this. 48 megapixel, it's the Samsung, the GW2, so it's the next generation 48 megapixel sensor from them, and it does a pretty good job in daylight, as you'll see later on. But first I wanted to jump into battery life. So I do a fixed battery test here. This is from PC Mark, and I set and calibrate all of the displays to 200 nits of brightness, and then just let it run. So it'll run from 100% down to 20, and then give us our result here. So you can see we've got 13 hours and 12 minutes from the 5020 milliamp hour battery that's in the Redmi Note 9S. That is an excellent result. So this translates into at least 2 days use for most. And as I mentioned in the full review, that the standby battery drain is also excellent. I'm only losing about 4% over the space of about 8 hours or so overnight connected to 4G data. That's with sync on as well. So this was a common question. Does it have raise to wake? Will it face unlock straight away for you when you do that? And yeah, most of the time it's working for me, and probably about, I would say, a good 9 out of 10 times. So I demonstrate it here. I've got the tripod in the way, so it might not be as quick. So raise it up, look at it, and then it unlocks. You can see that actually did work for me. So over the week of using the phone now, I found the fingerprint reader is very good, but I have run into just one more bug. Okay, what happened, I didn't get it on camera and there was no real point. So I went to unlock it, I heard that unlock noise, okay, and then nothing. It was like this, blank screen. Pressed it again, and I could hear it doing the unlock from my fingerprint and even the face unlocking, but there was absolutely nothing on the screen at all. And I had to power it off, okay, so I had to do a complete hard reset and then get it back. So clearly there is still a bit of a problem with the firmware. I mean, we've had no updates, but that's the second big bug that I have discovered. Now, the other one was the camera that sometimes locks up on you. I'll just go into the camera mode here. So I was trying to, I spent hours actually trying to get it to lock up on camera, and I couldn't get it. This is just the rule, okay? The general rule. Try and get something to do it on camera for you is very difficult. But it's a good opportunity to point out the shutter rate here. Like night mode's a little bit slower. When you take a 48 megapixel shot as well, you can see that is also a bit slower too. Now we do have video pro mode. That's in this phone as well. Some people are asking me, is it there? So we do have that video pro mode. That's handy. It's good to see. And there'll be some camera samples, more samples. I want to talk a little bit more about that camera as well later on. There's Samsung GW2 in this video. But before I get onto that, let's talk about the screen. It's one of the most important things in a phone. And I mentioned in the review that I don't believe it's a super high quality panel. You don't expect this. This is a $200 phone. We're getting a very good spec. And I also said in that video that the average person out there is going to love the screen. So you give this to your uncle or something like that, this phone, or to your mother, and they'll not see anything wrong with it whatsoever. It's just techies out there will see, like with certain solid colors, you can see now where the cutout is for the front-facing 16 megapixel camera. It depends on the angle you're looking at it. If I hold it up now, you'll probably see it a little bit of this that's happening. You can see that shadowing around the notch, which is a little bit annoying. Like it's not super high quality. You get a bit of it down here on the bottom. And for most people, that's not actually going to be a problem. The biggest thing I can see being a problem for all those people out there is the sunlight legibility. And I did mention that a little bit. It's illegible at times if it's really bright, that sun. As you can see now, it's really hard to make out. And it doesn't look quite as bad as it's been captured right now, okay, on video. But it is bad. Bad enough that sometimes I need to go and find some shade so I can see the screen. Now, yes, I do have the screen protector on it. It came with one pre-applied. Now, the other things that were quite common was what's happened to the phone dialer. Are they using the Google stock app this? It is, okay? So this is just the Android 10 stock app, okay? And why have they done this? I believe it's to do with the voice recording they used to have before. So call recording was possible on the earlier ones. So even though you had MIUI 11, but it was on Android 9, you could do that. But I think it's something to do with Google's actually blocked that. I don't want it anymore, so that is why. And then your text message app is also the same, okay? That's using Google's messages now and not Xiaomi's. So in the future, hopefully they can use their own app for this, but it's not too much of an issue. So there were a lot of questions. A lot of people were asking me. I had half of India, it seemed, asking me about GCam. Why didn't I show it? Why haven't I tested it? The thing is, I've got GCam installed, okay? And it's kind of working and then it isn't, because the most important thing that most people want, of course, is night sight. But when you go into this, it will jam up and lock. Hey, what do you know? It's actually working for me this time around. And there we go. Okay, it crashed. It didn't actually save that photo either. It looks like it's going to work and then it crashes. But normally it crashes straight away just going into it. So that's one thing that was asked frequently. I might go back to this, okay, once we get a working version, check it out. But yes, if you want improved low light, hold out for that, because low light performance from this camera is actually not very good. Now, there's a couple other things I wanted to point out, and that is to do with, all right, the Clean app used to have adverts in it, and it seems that Xiaomi has at least removed that, but there is still some advertising coming through, because this popped up for me. So after you install an app, anything from, say, Google Play, I don't know if this can actually be disabled, but what it will do is then do a system virus scan, an APK virus scan, which is, I think, a little bit unnecessary, because Google has their Play Protect, don't they, which is basically the same thing. Anyway, once it's scanned the package, after you've installed it, comes up with this advertising. So it is not 100% advert-free MIUI 11, unfortunately. So that's disappointing to see. And then a few of you were asking about thermal throttling. Why didn't I mention thermals in the full review? Because there was no need. This phone, I've done quite a bit of gaming on it already. I will show you another game too, which is Shadowgun Legends, also demanding, but it performs well. And the thermals are very good. So even after doing this throttling test here, that was 15 minutes. And if it was going to throttle, well, you can see just at the start, it did a little bit, okay? It got down to about 90% performance. And this is normal. This is the way the chipsets work, that if they get a little bit too warm, they'll throttle down. But it's good. After 15 minutes, it barely, well, it didn't throttle, okay? And temperatures, really good, okay? Because of the current situation, I don't have my thermal probe with me, but I can tell you an estimated, I would say 40 degrees or so it's getting up to, screen and the rear. I don't see it has been an issue. And if you're gaming for long periods, I think the thermals on this particular phone are going to be perfectly fine. This one also popped up a lot, and that was the status LED. So there you can see it. It is a simple white color, and that's it. You cannot customize it to another color. For example, to have it as blue when you get a message. No, that's not possible. It is to the right of the cutout of the front-facing camera, and to the left of that is our earpiece at the top. So this earpiece is not actually centered perfectly. It's to the left a little bit. So we'll take a look at that gameplay performance now with Shadowgun Legends. So this chipset actually does pretty well. I mean, all those new titles out there and slightly older demanding games like this one, you can set the settings. And the best option here is 60 frames per second. High does have a few frame dips now and then. If you set it to medium, it would probably be slightly more smoother. But let's go with high here. Ultra high, no. Ultra high just gets a little bit too choppy when there's explosions and things going on. Let's take a look at that gameplay. So you can see even with the high settings, it's very smooth. It's playable. You get the occasional, as mentioned before, little stutter you see with an explosion or something load in, but it's not going to completely lag out and become unplayable. No, this new 720G does really well. I mean, the G stands for gaming, so they have tuned the GPU a little bit more for gaming performance. And even if I, hang on, zoom in here, just double tap, still smooth here through the scope. So gaming on this chipset for a $200 phone, I've got no problems with it. I think it's very good. Excellent, in fact, for $200 US. So a lot of people asked me to show this and run this again as Antutu. So my first score was 250,000, okay? And now it is just under 250,000. I lost 5,000 points and the phone was cold. So this is about the score you're going to get. Now others are saying that the 720G on so-and-so's channel got a better score. What am I doing to make it look bad? I don't know. Maybe they're using another version of Antutu, but this is version 8.3 and that's the score. And it's actually not too bad. Come on. This is a $200 phone, so performance is fairly decent. When you take a look at the GPU scores, memory, yeah, I mean, this is a mid-range, low-range kind of chip here from Qualcomm. So for the price of this phone, selling for around $200 US, and if you import one in from China, it's actually less than that.
that I think this does actually have a very good camera. The main camera, that 48 megapixel sensor, is the next generation 48 megapixel sensor from Samsung. So it's the, what do they call it? The bright cell, I think it is. The GW2 is the sensor. And as you can see from this, it does take a very good photo when you have a look at this flower here. So this is the red hibiscus, and a lot of even flagships don't capture it this well. They do end up clipping that red. So not getting all those different shades of red in there, not seeing those tiny little veins that would just completely clip it out. But this camera does not. So for the price, I think the camera on the rear is really, really good, but only in daylight, okay? Daylight stills here, these samples I'm showing you. Portraits come out pretty good. Now the front-facing camera that you're looking at right now, I think it's quite good. 1480p, the quality is good, but you can see that it shakes around a lot. That's because it doesn't have any electronic image stabilization, as I pointed out in my first review that I posted. So if I start to walk now, you'll see that it's going to shake around a lot here, and that hopefully can be added with a firmware update. I believe they can just do this with firmware, but then would have a crop that would probably be about here, a lot closer then, because that's what happens with electronic image stabilization. Of course, you need to crop. Now the macro sensor on the back is 5 megapixels. Other Xiaomi phones had a 2 megapixel macro camera, which was quite hopeless really. But you can see here, when you have a look at the snail, look at the little tiny dots on its skin and the eyes there, that the macro photos, they're actually pretty good for 5 megapixels. I don't know a lot of people that will take macro shots, but at least that option is there for us.
Okay, so there we go, guys. I think the final verdict with this one is pretty much like a lot of the Xiaomi phones recently that I've been reviewing, and that is software, software, software. It's all down to software fixes, bug fixes from Xiaomi, and then this is going to be an excellent phone for the price. You've got really good performance, FM radio, you've got the 2 nano SIMs, micro SD card support, IR transmitter, 3.5mm headphone jack, big battery, good battery life, good gaming performance. It's just that software. So we need to have optimization from Xiaomi on just a few bugs, like the camera bug I pointed out in my review and also talked briefly about it here. And then we've got the bitrate for audio and video. Hopefully they can add electronic image stabilization to video, tweak low light performance, or maybe in the future we can find a working GCam port. And this is going to be a fantastic phone for the $200 US. Thank you so much for watching this follow-up video 1 week later with the Redmi Note 9S. Please do check out my first full review of this phone. Bye for now, and I hope to catch you in the next one.